You cannot be half open. To understand the potential of the open web, you need to be out in the open, and to do that, you need to wrestle your inner monsters. Welcome to the Shadowlands where monsters dwell. No academics speak here. This is a space to share scary stories. It is scary, they are unpredictable, and we feel vulnerable. They pop up anywhere and suddenly. Yet few of us speak of monsters when it comes to the MOOC, or Massive Open Online Course phenomenon. The monsters are more than tropes or tools for learning. The monsters are us. Yet, as Neil Selwyn so eloquently suggests, exuberant positivity is more the tone of the moment, accompanied with a curious amnesia about the technological disruptions that would change the world and yet did not. An almost sociopathic dissociation from our humanity. The tools, the pedagogies, the institutions have one thing in common: human beings. What makes or breaks an innovation is the human element. Let's use the Open Digital Storytelling course DS-106 as an example. Alan Levine is one of the original designers of it, and he speaks of it being off the web and not on the web. What does this mean, Dorothy? It means we have to find our way into it for it to be home.
Hey there. So I'm walking down 20th Street in New York City. And if you've ever been to New York City, maybe the sounds of it give you an indication of what it's like. And places like New York, London, even the Grand Canyon, you can see pictures, watch movies of them, and get an appreciation of those spaces. But it really never matches the fidelity and the experience of actually being in that space. Not always possible, but that's the way I think about the web too, because the web is a unique space, as unique a place as the corner of 28th and Park Avenue in New York City. But the web being unique in a place that has been an open and incredibly scalable, definitely the most pervasive, expansive, and potentially world-changing information compendium that has ever been. There's never been anything like it, obviously. And part of it is because of its very nature of being completely distributed and every piece of information on it equal in a sense of how you can connect to it. So the idea of being on the web is, it's pretty easy to publish and distribute information and put things on the web. We get that a lot because we get things that look like books. When we think of video, honestly, things like Netflix, YouTube, it's not all that different from watching video the way we've done it before on TV screens, VCRs, press play. But when you think about video acting like the web, you get something different. And people are still trying to figure out what that means. So being of the web means thinking more about the way the web works in terms of linking information, of being dynamic, of being changeable, of being a thing that can be different every time you go back to it. And generally, it's just the mindset that I have found useful in everything that I've approached in terms of working on creating and inhabiting this space. Because otherwise, you're just looking at a picture of New York City, when really it's much better to be in that space, because that is what has worked. So be of the web, don't just be on the web.
What we know from cross-cultural psychology about visiting new countries tells us that it is not the color of the suitcase or whether I get there by bus or train or automobile that helps me become part of the new culture I am in. It needs me to learn the language and immerse myself in a culture that is invisible to those who live there. It needs a new me.
So the quote that was attributed to me, that I'm not even sure if I wrote or said or what, is you don't need new technology to change your teaching, you need a new you. I'm always in search of a new me. But if I'm thinking about what I might have meant when I could have said this, one of the things that I think I've always imagined with teaching online and distributed teaching, and not just online, is thinking about how the community around sharing your interests has changed with the emergence of the digital and how you can access that and showcase a real sense of who you are. For me, that has been the explosion around a lot of these tools, if you want to call them as much. And they don't need to be shiny or new, but they do kind of coalesce around this idea of the web and the ability to kind of share who you are and what you're thinking and what you're doing within a particular context of what you're teaching to people. And I think a real authentic way, for me, has been the real revolution of educational technology as I've been a part of it. And one of the great kind of instantiations of that is DS106, obviously. It's a community where people come together and share the stuff they're interested in, and they are able to kind of riff around an idea and a possibility. That's really compelling to me. And what comes first in a relationship like that to the technology is a group of people in a community and a sense of self, not the tool you're teaching to or learning. So I think that's what I might have meant, but I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure of anything. All right, this is Jim Groom, signing out.
A new culture to join, a new me to develop. There is nothing here about new tech or made up words to create yet another learning theory we do not need. It is all about a willingness to challenge our preconceptions, wrestling those inner monsters and learning the attentional skills that we need in order to use the web. Let's listen to Howard Rheingold, who has spent a lifetime living and learning on the open web.
Honing the mental ability to deploy the form of attention appropriate for each moment is an essential internal skill for people who want to find, direct, and manage streams of relevant information by using online media knowledgeably.
What stops us from joining the party, aside from our lack of attentional skills, what are those inner MOOC monsters? Simply and beautifully depicted by Carol Paul's TB, our fears. When we think about putting ourselves out there, we feel like TB. Our office in our university is the safe zone. Who wants to venture to something that is bound to lead to certain death? Fear is adaptive, but at times needs to be challenged. We challenge inner fears by bootstrapping inquiry, by being willing to, dare I say it, look foolish and getting it wrong in public. We test our fears with inquiry. We live life as inquiry to learn the new culture and find that new identity as a digital scholar or an open educator. The barriers are real. We fear our work may not be up to scratch. We don't want to look stupid in public. We have a need to be seen as experts in our subject. What if my lectures are not as good as I think they are? Bottom line, we need that new identity, one that drives and thrives critical inquiry and that is willing to be reshaped and listen to feedback, good or bad. Our inner worlds, the ones we do not want to make public, look more like this. A list of rigid rules I must always follow no matter what. The more scared I am of that certain death outer circle, the more likely that my inner world will be populated by these monsters. And what about the I must always hold on to my ideas as mine and I must get recognition for them? Well, it may serve to have a daily practice of turning those monsters into tamed pets, guides for action that support rather than hinder our desire to join the open web for teaching and learning. Instead of rules that apply always, we can soften these to apply in specific contexts. transforming these rules is just one possible practice for using the web skillfully, but an important one. You also need to have role models, you need guides who know what they're doing and who are willing to guide you. You need to know those back channels which are often open and available to talk things over and make deeper relationships. You need to know that the way that you write tells people something about who you are, and that those people have needs that go beyond just being part of your personal or professional learning network. They want to be treated kindly and be seen as people, not as transactional objects. Community builds with people, not Facebook. It is this focus that will turn open online courses into more than assisted page turning. Good luck wrestling your inner MOOC monsters. If you need a space to share stories and develop skills to do this, the DS106 community is on the case. Coming soon to a laptop near you. A place to find the balance between connection and stillness, contemplation and information. I look forward to seeing you there.